Good morning everyone, it's our cook-along, it's our birthday cook-along because someone has just turned 13 and Isaac as well obviously because you're twins. So I thought today we would show you a recipe from my gut health diet book, which is a paleo carrot and ginger cake. It's quite filling, it's quite big, so it's perfect for a birthday cake, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially with lots of icing. So if you have signed up to our cook-alongs, you should have had a link to our ingredients list. So you can just click on that, download it, and then you should have all the ingredients. I will talk you through the ingredients as well, as I know some people like to cook along with us and other people like to do it afterwards. But if you want the recipe, the full recipe is in the Gut Health Diet book. But if you signed up to our newsletter for the cook-alongs, we have a couple of different newsletters. But if you sign up for the cook-along one, you should be able to just download the ingredients anyway. So you may have already weighed them out and got them ready. We've got everything ready. So welcome if you're just joining us. And we'll just give it a couple of minutes to make sure everyone can log on, get on. Simeon is going to join me today. Since it's your birthday.
Yeah.
Wearing a top from his birthday presents. You did well, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
You did well, did very well. And where are we going out tonight?
Sushi.
Sushi, yeah. So Simeon and Isaac really like Japanese food and sushi. So that's your choice, that's where we're going tonight. And we'll probably have the birthday cake straight after this cook-along actually. So, you know, it'll be a nice day, won't it? Andy's been out for a run with me. Simeon's running at the weekends with me, which is great. Isaac's coming to the gym with me later, so we're keeping ourselves nice and healthy. If you are going to cook with us, get your oven on 180 degrees C, which is gas mark 4. So just get it on, make sure it's nice and hot. Now, you would have seen that I mentioned as well that you're going to need some baking tins. I'm doing quite a big cake. You could do, if you wanted, a 3-tier smaller cake, but I'm doing a layered cake with 2 tins. These are 9 inches. A lot of people generally use 8 or 9 inches for cakes. This is quite a big cake. So first thing to do, just lightly grease it. I do like to put some grease-proof paper in the tin just to make sure it's easier to get out. Get those prepared. Welcome if you're just joining us. I know some people are just logging on. Lovely to have you on Simeon's birthday, 13, teenager. And so I'm going to make you this paleo ginger and carrot cake. Really lovely. So the first thing I need you to do, Sim, and it's really important, have your ingredients at room temperature. And the reason for that is that, particularly the proteins in the eggs, is a lot easier to beat them to get a lighter, fluffier texture. Don't get them straight out the fridge, it's quite hard. So you are going to crack open, and it is a lot of eggs, to the point that we do have chickens, but they just can't cope with 10 eggs in one day. So that's fine, Sim, that's fine. You put all the shells in there, and Simeon's going to, we've got 10 eggs, room temperature eggs, medium size. So we have had to resort to birthday to actually buying them this time, haven't we? We're going to use the food processor. You can do it in a bowl, but you will need a blender just to blend the first ingredients first, because those are the wet ingredients. With paleo cooking, you often will use a combination of ground nuts and also coconut flour, sometimes almond flour as well. The coconut flour in particular is very absorbent, so you need plenty of liquid to help bind it and keep it nice and moist. And that's why, I mean, it is a big egg, we're using 10 eggs, so it is actually quite high with the protein. So it'd be very difficult for those of you who are trying to avoid eggs to do this recipe. Because you can normally replace 2 or 3 eggs in a cake quite easily, but it's actually quite difficult if you're doing 10. So we've got our 10 eggs. Now I'm going to just bring over the food processor, just because it's slightly easier to use the food processor, but you could do this in a big bowl. Welcome everyone, if you're just joining us, we've just started. So very carefully, Sim, if you could put the eggs in there. Sim does like joining with me, particularly when he can clean out bowls and lick bowls as well. Then we've got the other wet ingredients. Now, on a primal diet, some people do eat butter. Butter, particularly organic butter, is actually quite a good source of butyrate, vitamin A and K. So if you can tolerate butter, you could use butter. Otherwise, you could use coconut oil. So we're going to put in, this is about 150 grams. If I do, oh, you might be able to get that out. If not, you can use a spoon, darling. So the butter goes in. Again, keep that at room temperature, because otherwise it's a little bit hard. Don't melt it, and don't melt your coconut oil if you're using coconut oil. You want it to have some consistency. You don't want it sloppy. Then we're going to add traditional in sort of the hummingbird type cakes and the carrot cakes is often a little bit of pineapple. That's pineapple just from a tin, but without any syrup, so just fruit juice. So that's about 3 slices or so, about 100 grams of pineapple going in. And then your sweetener, just pour that in carefully. You could either have sweet freedom, yacon syrup, you could use maple syrup, you could use a good quality honey. This is a sweet cake, so I know most of the time I tend to use a little bit of stevia or xylitol. You could replace it for some pure pineapple juice if you preferred that, but the fructose is still quite high in pineapple. Yacon is probably your best bet in terms of GI, but it will still contain some fructose. But yacon is actually very useful in the sense that it's a prebiotic, so it feeds your beneficial bacteria. And then what we're going to do, Sim, is we're going to blend that up. So it's going to be quite noisy, and it might potentially go over a little bit. So dry pulsing it first. Yeah, it will be quite fluffy. So that's our wet ingredient. We want to make sure that's really amalgamated very well. I think you might need a little bit more. Put it on full for a bit. Just to make sure that butter's really mixed in. You don't want it to be mixy. Right, then we're going to add some dates. Again, this is the other sweetener. So let's just put the dates in and blend it. Welcome everyone if you're just joining us. We're making our Paleo carrot birthday cake. We're just doing the sweet ingredients and the wet ingredients first. Do you want to blend that up? We'll get that moving. And try, if your dates are a little bit hard, just literally pour over some boiling water, 5 minutes, drain it off, because otherwise it's actually going to be quite hard to blend those up. Now, Sim, I need you to chop up some stem ginger. We're a big fan of ginger. Ginger is great for digestive function. It's great as a digestive aid generally. It helps you digest your food nicely. Ginger, I mean, now what you'll need to do, because I don't want avocado hand, as you know what it's been called now, to cutting your slicing your finger off. Always go down to the board and then turn it over so you've got a nice firm, rather than it being a wobbly base. A bit thinner than that. Yeah, we want nice little chunks. Ginger is also a well-known anti-inflammatory. It's a really good one. Because it can help with switching off NF-kappa B, which is a signalling which signals to our body to produce cytokines which are inflammatory. So ginger is well known for nausea, so for pregnancy it's often recommended, for digestive function generally, stimulating our digestive secretions, and of course it's a well-known anti-inflammatory. You could use fresh ginger, you could use fresh root ginger if you preferred. This is the stem ginger which you get in a jar, so it's naturally quite sweet. And what Simeon's doing is he's just cutting it into small chunks, because at the end we're just going to pulse that in. Now the dry ingredients. So coconut flour. Now, as I mentioned, coconut flour is is very absorbent, so you don't actually need very much. So this cake is actually quite a lot, really, of the wet ingredients, the eggs, the butter and so on. The dry ingredients are not huge amounts. The coconut is that's 60 grams, so the coconut flour I'm going to put in. And what you'll find is as well, if you make this and then you think, oh, I'll cook it a bit later, it may actually swell up even more. So I tend to try and mix it all up and then cook it straight away. And also because we're using welcome everyone, if you're just joining in, we're just starting the cake mix. So I've just put in the dry ingredients now, the coconut flour, and this is 100 grams of ground almonds, not almond flour. Almond flour tends to be very, very dry, whereas ground almonds gives a much lighter, fluffier flavour when you are making a cake. I use almond flour when I'm doing pastry. I love it for pastry. Because you need it to be quite harsh and to hold together and bind together. But when you want a lighter, fluffier texture, like a muffin or a cake or bread, use ground almonds, and it's also cheaper. So those are going in as well. Simeon is just washing his hands. If you wonder where he's disappeared to, he's just washing his hands. Then we're going to blend that up with a bit of raising agent. So I've used here a little bit of bicarb soda. You could, if you want it slightly lighter, just add a half a teaspoon of baking powder as well. So hold on a minute, we're just going to blend that up. And what you'll find is that mixture will bind together. Done now. So when you are mixing it all together, you'll find that the whole of the cake batter will thicken quite substantially because the coconut flour is really absorbing all that liquid. Now we've got the carrots, and this is probably about 4 or 5 carrots. There's quite a lot of carrot in this recipe. I've just grated it, and you could use a hand box grater or use a machine. There's a little bit there that didn't get grated. So Sim, if you could put all of that in, it might seem an awful lot, but remember this is quite a big cake. So that's our carrot. Now, depending on whether you like real chunks of carrot or not, or you want it more incorporated, you blend it up now. Or if you're doing this in a big bowl, just stir it well. Okay, hang on a minute, let's just get that in properly. That's it, and then switch. So Sim's going to blend that up for me. Okay, now you can flavour it a bit as well. So I like to add probably about just a drizzle of, you don't need to weigh that. Yeah, that's fine. A bit of vanilla extract, pure vanilla. Now you can also add a little bit of orange zest. Welcome everyone if you've just joined us. If you've downloaded the ingredients, I'll talk you through it, but we've just added the wet ingredients, the dry ingredients, and we're just now flavouring it with a little bit of vanilla. Some people also like, and it's on the recipe, a little bit of grated orange zest as well. That's really nice. And then for the sort of other ingredients, to give it some more of the carrot cake texture, I've got here some dried fruit, about 100 grams or so. I've got just some mixed dried fruit. We quite often like to use things like goji berries in it as well. So do you want to drizzle all those in, Sim? So any dried fruit, dried cranberries. It could be just chopped apricots if you prefer apricots. They're really nice in a carrot cake. And then, because it's a ginger cake and we like ginger, Simeon's chopped up stem ginger. You might need to get a spoon if you can't get it all out. And then I think we should just pulse that. We don't want that all blended up. We want all the texture now. So Sim, if you can just pulse this up. And again, if you were using a bowl, you would just stir this in. So just pulse that in for a bit. And let's just do it once more. cake batter. Now I'm going to bring it out. I think Chris is going to do a little close-up. You want to move that away for me. As I mentioned earlier, if you did miss it, I've got here 2 tins greased. These are 9-inch cake tins, because you can see here with the batter, it is big. We've got a lot of cake mixture here. Now, if you wanted, or you just didn't have the 9-inch cake tins, you could use 8-inch, 20 centimetre, that would be absolutely fine. And if you really wanted to, you could actually use 7 and do 3 tiers, which would make it, you know, a smaller but very indulgent cake, because you have a lot more icing. So then what we're going to do is evenly spread the mixture into the cake tins. So now they've been greased and I've lined them. It makes it so much easier when you are trying to then get them out after baking. And obviously, depending on the size of your cake tin will depend on the length of cooking time. So for the 9-inch, allow about 45 minutes. It's quite a long cooking time. If you are doing slightly bigger, as in thicker cakes, at an 8-inch, I would give it about 50-55. After about 45, check. You should be able to see that it's a nice light brown texture, and when you stick a skewer into the middle, it should come out nice and clean. That's always your sort of gold standard, but it should be nice and springy, golden brown as well. So so you want all that lovely texture in here. It's a carrot cake. We want to see bits of carrot and raisins or goji or whatever you put in there. And obviously we wanted as well the chunks of ginger to still be in there. Someone's just asked about the sweetener. You could, if you really love ginger and you've got a jar of the stem ginger, instead of your Sweet Freedom or Yacon syrup or honey, you could substitute, instead of using, say, pineapple juice, for the syrup in the jar of the stem ginger, and that would give it quite a ginger kick. So you can see there, do you want to just move that for me? Those are your tins filled, hopefully nice and even and similar sizes. We're going to put those in the oven about 45 minutes, 180 degrees, gas mark 4. So, do you want me to do it? Okay, so that's all done. I'm just going to wash my hands a little bit, just clean up. Now I'm going to show you how to ice. And this is, you can do this in several ways. We're going to fill it with, you've got on your recipe, if you've downloaded your recipe, you'll see there's a few different options. I want to show you the coconut, and then we can discuss the other options. So I've got half of the cake already on the board, and we're going to fill this first. Let me just show you the icing. So ideally, and the reason I'm moving away is because if you want it nice and thick, then ideally you want to chill your cans of coconut milk. Thank you, Simeon, for shutting up. That's great. So I've got here, and I've just literally put the whole tin in the fridge, ideally overnight. And the reason for doing that is that what we actually want, I'm just going to move this slightly so that hopefully you'll be able to see this, is you want a nice thick cream at the top. We don't want the water underneath. This is full fat canned coconut milk. That's all it is. It's not cream, it's just the milk. So you've got a nice thick, and it is actually really quite hard because I've had it in the fridge, and it might spurt out a bit when you dig deep, but what you'll get is a much firmer icing. Now what you can do, if you don't want to just chill it or you haven't got time, just get it out before you start making your cake. Scoop out the cream like this, and then you can flavour it and then put it back in your fridge until you are just about ready to ice. and that way it will firm up. So you can see there, you've got all that lovely coconut. Now again, depending on the brand, I normally say you need at least 2 cans. You might need more, you might need 3 or 4. So you can see there, that's the water. I use that in smoothies and when I'm making curries and things, so I keep that, don't waste anything of course. And then this is lovely and firm, like this. So now comes with, well, what do we do with it? As in, do we flavour it? Do we sweeten it? I try not to add lots of sweetener. I have, you'll notice on the recipe, mentioned that you could grind up some xylitol or use a little bit of stevia and mix that in. What I do like to do is give it some flavour though. So you could use things like orange juice or orange zest. You don't want too much liquid, otherwise it's going to be too sloppy. You want it quite firm, like that. Or if you want to have it really gingery, then this is a time you could just add a drizzle of the stem ginger liquid, and that will give it a nice ginger flavour. Or, and I'm just showing you here what you can do, is add just a dash, again you don't want too much, of vanilla extract. And you need to beat all that together. So this is a job for you children. So Simeon, if I can get you to, now it will be a bit hard because it has been in the fridge, but if you just press it down like that, you'll see it's going to start mixing up. And if you give that a nice beat so we can get a nice smooth texture. And obviously you could do this well in advance. I'll move that in so you've got a board. Now I have prepared some. Now the other thing, if you are able to have dairy, you could use cream cheese or mascarpone for exactly the same thing. And again, I don't feel you need to sweeten it particularly. I prefer just to add flavour. So the reason this is a little bit sort of beigey is because I've put probably about a tablespoon of vanilla extract, which is quite a bit, but I've got a lot of icing here. And I've been beating it, and I've just had it in the fridge to keep it firm. So with the filling, if you don't want loads and loads of sort of coconut cream and cream and so on, you could just fill this with something like a pure apricot spread, which goes really nicely with carrot cake. So you could just fill this almost a bit like a Victoria sandwich. You're having a bit of jam on there. You could puree up some fruit or some mango and just use that instead. You could just fill it with a little bit of fruit without any cream. What I'm going to do is just use a palette knife and just spread a little of this. I don't want a lot because otherwise it really is quite rich. And I also want enough for actually piping on the top. So again, it's sometimes easier as well if you have struggle to spread things because they've just been out of the fridge. If your palette knife or your knife is just dipped in a little bit of warm water or boiling water, you'll find that that will actually help it to spread anyway. Turn your board, it could be a plate. If you haven't got the board, don't worry. And just use a palette knife. You can use the back of a spoon if you haven't got a palette knife, or just a plain blunt knife. I'm just going to put a little bit more on there. But I want to just be able to show you as well the piping. There's lots of different ways, obviously, of piping. And just to show you a fun one, which I'm going to get Simeon to do. It's his birthday cake. Yeah. Why not? Why not, Sim? Mm-hmm. And again, you see, if you don't want it so rich with lots of, coconut cream and cheese or cream cheese, then what I actually like doing is in the centre of the cake, and I'll show you, is just fill it with some lovely fresh berries, which makes it, a bit lighter. So that's the filling. Now, well, that's great, Sim. You've done a really good job. What I'm going to do is, you can see here I've got a piping bag, with the nozzle already in there. I tend to do it this way because it's just easier, less hassle to get your icing in. I always find it's a really good idea to fill as much as you can of your bag, rather than thinking, oh, I've run out of icing and now I've got to refill it, because that gets really messy. So by just holding it over a bowl or jar or jug, even measuring jug is quite a good idea. It just makes it easier to fill. And then we're just going to shake that down so that we can get it near the... And I've got here a star nozzle. You could use any nozzle, but I've got quite a thick star nozzle, and I will get Simeon in a minute just to do some icing. So yes, you might need 2 to 3 cans of coconut, depending on, again, whether you're going to fill both the middle and the top. And this is one of those reusable icing bags that you can get from Lakeland, which is very good. So I'm just going to put that there for a minute because I need to place on the, you watch that, you know, it will start squirting it into your mouth. And so this is the top. So you can see there, this is quite a nice golden brown one. So I'm just going to place that gently on the top. Now, if you just wanted to scatter fruit over that, what I would suggest you do is, just as we did for the centre, put a very small base of the coconut cream or the other icing on the top so it sticks. Or you could put a thin layer of jam, and that would also do it as well. So Sim, I'm going to show you how to do it. I know you've done it loads of times before, but let me just show you. And it's up to you, but it's normally better to start in the middle. If you start in the edge, you're then having to sort of go over it with your arm, unlikely. Always twist the top of your icing bag. You want that nice and tight. The pressure is really going to come from the top. If you start pressing here, you'll end up with gaps, and you'll have air gaps, which makes it harder. So your pressure should be coming from here. Now this is, just going to show everyone, it's a star nozzle, quite a thick one. So you're going to do, we're going to do little squidges. That's a really technical word, Sim. So you're just going to go down and up, like that. So down, up, down, up, down, up. So we're not going to do, you know when we do our cupcakes, we would just keep it swiveling round. Because this is quite a big cake, it's actually better just to do little stars like this. And actually what I think we will do is, and we may run out of icing, because I haven't done huge amounts, is then put some fruit, perhaps in the centre as well. Okay, so if I do that bit, then you can take over like that. Okay, so I'll just squeeze that down a bit for you. Turn it again. Okay. Yep. So you want to hold it tight there with that hand, and then that's just really to guide you. Use your other hand to guide you, and hold it upright as well. So hold it vertical, and the pressure's coming from there. And then as you do one little squeeze, you're going to move on. Perfect. Brilliant. And just watch your lovely top that you've just bought. That's great, Sim. That's great. Now, in terms of decorating, that's great, Chris. Thank you. You can then, obviously, you've got your icings, but you then might want to just use a few other extras as well. I've got here just some fresh raspberries. I've got some flakes of coconut chips that have been lightly toasted. You can buy them lightly toasted, or you can just toss them in a pan, no oil, nothing, low heat, and just give them a little bit of a golden coating. You could put over a little bit of, if you've used apricot jam in the middle, you could use a few dried chopped apricots on top, or just some desiccated coconut. I think all of those work really well. How are you doing?
Good.
Good? Do you want me to take over? Are you okay? It's good. I'm going to let him go on. It's his birthday cake. I don't care. That's absolutely fine, Sim. So the other icing that I did put on the recipe sheet was a protein icing. I tend to use that more for cupcakes, but I thought it's quite useful for you to have it. And it's essentially a combination of, you know, a couple of scoops of, I normally use vanilla protein powder, and I blend it into either the coconut cream that I've just shown you, or if you can eat dairy, you could use just ordinary cream cheese. Now you're right there, didn't me? Shall I just get that back to you? Some of the protein powders are already quite sweet. So if they are sweet, there was a little blocks in, that's why. I'll just quickly finish that for you. Some of them are quite sweet, so you won't need any sweetener anyway. If yours isn't, and I'm just going to do a nice big squeeze so we've got enough just to show everyone around there. If yours isn't sweet enough, your protein powder, you could add a little bit of stevia or xylitol as well. And that's a really nice vanilla, slightly protein-rich, protein-powdered icing. It's a very useful one, but I tend to use that more if I'm doing bars or slices or little cupcakes. We're nearly out, aren't we, of the icing? So we might need to just fill it up a little bit more as well. But you've done really well, Sim. And later we will be having candles on this, I no doubt, for you. But you certainly want a sort of vanilla-based or creamy icing for this paleo cake recipe. And that could be the coconut cream. If you find it's a little bit too wet, then simply just put it back in the fridge to firm up. So I'm going to leave it there. We're just going to finish off decorating and we'll post a picture on Instagram. But first of all, thank you for your help and happy birthday. And enjoy your day, everyone. And please do try out the cake. Let me know what you think. Happy birthday, Simeon.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.